Hi, I'm Carter, and Pete's my daddy. I'm also listening to today's podcast, but first, check this out.
In our head, we thought we were millionaires when really we were not, and that eventually catches up with you. You can only do something like that and spend like that and live vicariously like that without abandon for so long, and then eventually reality hits you hard and you're like, oh, wait, well, we're gonna have to retire one day, and we have kids that have to go to college one day, and well, do we want a mortgage when we're 65 years old and supposedly retired? Or do we want to continue to have to work after we're retired just to make ends meet?
Alrighty, everyone, this is the Money Peach Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Peach, and I'm going to be bringing on some of the most amazing people I can find so they can tell you how they do their life and their money the right way. Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm super excited about today's show, and here's the backstory behind it. A while ago, about 18 months ago, I had my wife, Andrea Robinson, come on the show, and together we went back and forth, and we talked about that struggle we had coming together with the finances. I was on one page, she was on a totally different page, and how we came together and we were able to pay off $52,000 in debt in 7 months, when before that we were paycheck to paycheck, we were struggling with money, and we didn't know what to do or where to go. Now, as soon as we aired this episode, it got a lot of traction in the beginning, and then all of a sudden, we got a call from her boss. She was a television news anchor at the time, so you'll hear that in the episode, and we were in violation of her contract, so we immediately had to pull down the episode and like it didn't exist. And so now she has since retired from television news, so we thought, you know what, we're going to throw the episode back up and replay it. It's episode 120. So without further ado, let me bring on the most amazing, most talented, most beautiful woman I have ever known, Andrea Robinson.
I've told you a lot about my story. And what I mean is I have told you a lot about my story. I told you how, we were $52,000 in debt. My wife was at the grocery store, couldn't buy groceries. That was our rock bottom point. We turned it all around, got on a budget, started saying no to things, and we paid off $52,000 in 7 months. And we've told this story, or I've told the story on the podcast before, on other people's podcasts, on the blog. People know my story. However, they know it from my mouth. They know it from me. And there's two parts to that. I always talk about this. When you're dealing with marriage and money, both of you need to be involved. Both of you need to be making decisions. So and I shouldn't say this all the time, but I say, I paid off $52,000 in debt, and, I did this or I did that. It was really a we. It was a team effort. It was a we. So therefore I thought, why not bring Mrs. Peach onto the podcast and kind of let her tell you her side of the story? Because ladies that are listening out there, you're probably thinking like, my husband, if he ever came home and told me that we were going to, sell my car or do something like that, I'd go crazy. So you're going to hear exactly how that all went down in today's show. So without further ado, I want to bring on Mrs. Peach, my hottie, my wife, and she's my number one. So bring her on here. Andrea, welcome to the show.
You have to say that.
I do.
To sweet talk me into doing this, because I usually let you handle all of this kind of stuff, considering you are the Money Peach and I'm just along for the ride. But yeah, obviously we've gotten to this point because of both of us, but you're the face and the name with it all now.
Okay, so tell us, I know what you do because I live with you, but like, what do you do? What is your job? What do you do? People I think would be interested.
So I work for a local television station. I'm a morning anchor, and I've been doing this morning gig for, 2004.
12 years, 13 years almost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hence why I talk for a living and don't do math for a living, why you do the math for a living. So yeah, we kind of juggle some pretty crazy schedules. We've been blessed with great careers. We definitely have worked towards those careers, but along with great careers, we've been fortunate enough to, make a good living. We lived well above our good living for a long time. In our head, we thought we were millionaires when really we were not. We were definitely doing fine, but we lived like we were doing more than fine. And that eventually catches up with you. You can only do something like that and spend like that and live vicariously like that without abandon for so long. And then eventually reality hits you hard and you're like, oh, wait, well, we're going to have to retire one day, and we have kids that have to go to college one day. And well, do we want a mortgage when we're 65 years old and supposedly retired? Or do we want to continue to have to work after we're retired just to make ends meet? I didn't see that. I just didn't. You saw it first and came to me with the notion of completely turning our lives literally upside down. Like, I'm not kidding. He went from living one way to wanting to live a completely different way in a matter of 12 hours. But that is you to a T.
Yeah, so a lot of people...
He literally decides to do one thing, and the next day he does it. Like, so that is a gift in and of itself.
Or a curse.
Or a curse.
Or a curse.
Depending on, and I'm like that in some regard. But when it comes to feeling like I've been chained or feeling like I'm getting something taken away, especially because I feel like I was an equal and am an equal, part in the marriage as far as bringing in an income and adding value to the family in that manner, I felt like I needed to say. So I just didn't see your side of it firsthand, like right away. So it took a while.
I remember when it was that moment where we realized that we were facing $52,000 in debt. We've been living paycheck to paycheck since day one, pretty much.
And we didn't even know that number was so large. I always equate the way we live now and the way we do things and the way we manage our money and live on a budget a lot like a diet. Because so often, you start a diet, you're good, you feel good, right? You let a little something creep back in, this and that. You don't get on the scale because you kind of don't want to see the number. So we kind of lived in this little like blur of ignorance, like, we do have some debt. It's there, until you actually sit down or you actually step on the scale. And then you see this number and you're like, holy wow.
Yeah, I remember thinking, holy crap, we suck.
Yeah, we are sucking at life right now. We are far from winning at life.
Yeah, how do we suck this bad? We make this much money.
And we're young.
Exactly. We make this. So this is the conversation.
And at one point in time, granted, at this point in time when you came to me, we had a 4-month-old. But before that, this is how bad we sucked. I was working 2 jobs at one time, making killer money. Like working, though, like 15 hours a day, but I was making
crushing it,
good money.
For being 20-something years old, I mean, you were making
and working really hard. And we had nothing to show for it.
Well, we had a lot of crap. Right?
Yeah.
We had a lot of crap.
But nothing in a bank, nothing that was earning interest, nothing that was growing, nothing.
You're right. So
it was bad.
I remember the next day we came home and we looked at this piece of paper. I wrote down all the debt and just kind of stared at it. And I remember right away telling you needed to stop shopping at Target.
Yeah.
How well did that go over? And remember, this is the first few minutes that we decided to get out of debt. How did that go over?
Well, like you always say, it's like getting kicked in the face with a golf shoe. Mm-hmm. Like, I thought, are you kidding me? I'm the problem. My shopping at Target is the problem. That's all I heard. Granted, that's not what he was per se saying, but that's all I heard. And I felt like I was being attacked. Like we were in this heap of crap and problems because of my shopping habits. Granted, they were really bad. I mean, there was 1 month I think I spent, Target stayed in business because of me.
Absolutely.
But that's how I felt. I felt like you came at me like it is my fault. So yeah, I didn't receive this whole idea of changing or thinking about changing well at all in the beginning. Eventually though, you kind of, we didn't make a big decision the next day, but I think you just kind of slowly like backed off just a little bit and it got the wheels in my head turning. And I thought, well, I don't want to be like this forever. I want to have a great life. And the only way to make that happen is us. Like no one's going to do it for us. No one's going to knock out our debt for us. We're not going to win the lottery. Like people think they're going to win and their whole life is going to be better. That doesn't happen.
No.
The only way you're going to kick your debt to the curb is by taking action. So we're big go-getters, but yet we weren't go-getters in the money department.
Because it was painful. I mean, we realized that, okay, the stuff that we think that we have to make us happy or to show people how well we are doing, we have to give up. We have to cut that out.
And that's a hard thing to do, especially at the age we were at, is to basically say no to people and to things and to show your vulnerability and to show we're not what we show we are. We're nothing like that. But man, the whole new life opened up once we finally started down that path.
What would you say was one of the most difficult things that either we had to do together or you did personally to win, to get out of debt, to pay off that 52,000. Because I remember sitting down and, I'm Mr. Spreadsheet guy and I have my spreadsheet out on my calculator and I'm totally nerding out and you are just, you're disgusted by it.
It was annoying.
And I have this spreadsheet and I'm saying, I think it's going to take us about 14 months, to get rid of this debt. And we ended up doing it in 7 months.
Yeah. And he still nerds out, by the way. It's still happening.
Money nerds unite. So if you're a nerd out there, I want you to understand that, you are absolutely cool. You're a wonderful person. Nerds are great.
And both of you don't have to, I still don't love a spreadsheet. I still don't love crunching numbers. But I'm definitely a go-getter and I have a competitive kick inside of me. So the reason why we planned 14 months, but it really took us 7, is because both of us decided when we started seeing what we were doing work, we were like, well, we can ramp it up a little bit more. We could do a little bit better. So my whole thing was for instance, groceries. We would set one thing and then I could go to the grocery store and I saw that I was spending less than I set out to spend. So I was like, well, I could do better next week. So it became like this little competition with inside of me, how much better I could do.
Let me ask you this. What was the hardest part though? What would you say?
Giving up things.
Giving up things?
And saying no to people that we had committed to. I think that we were young and
By the way, we're still very young.
Well,
by the way,
I feel old, but yeah, we're still young chickens. But we were really young. And at that stage of our lives, we really cared what people thought of us.
Yeah, that was probably the hardest thing for me as well.
And when you have to tell somebody, no, we can't afford that, or no, we can't because we don't have the money to do that. People looked at both of us like, well, what do you mean you don't have the money? I know what you do for a living. Or I know what you do for a living. Well, you don't really know because we really screwed up. So, and no one really knows what you make. We just lived like we made a lot more than that.
Absolutely.
And so it was a little hard in the beginning because I know we were talked about.
That was hard. And I remember always we go somewhere and we pull out our envelopes.
And people made fun of us.
We still use the same envelopes today. But
and people still make fun of the cars that we drive and the cash that we pull out of an envelope. But
it's getting less and less, though.
It is getting less.
More and more people, I think, are jumping on board. It's funny. I'll get a text message with a picture saying, hey, we just got rid of our Beamer and now we're driving another Beamer, but it's a 1988.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay, that's
cool.
They're getting out of debt. He went from a 2008 or 2015 Beamer to an 88 Beamer, or whatever it might be. But I think the hardest part for me, and I knew it was for you, is, when we go somewhere and you hear, oh, the peaches won't pay for that. They're cheap. And you're like, what the heck? I'm a human. I'm right here. Hello. I'm still in the room. Or you'd hear somebody say, oh, there they go with their envelopes again. And, it sounds so silly, but I remember that hurt. That sucked. I remember thinking, man, are we really weird? And then I do remember telling the family about our Christmas exchange idea. And that didn't go real well at all.
No. When we decided we were going to draw names out of a hat and only buy from one person.
Yeah.
They were like,
you're a horrible person.
It was almost like we told them that we were canceling Christmas and not going to celebrate.
Yeah. And that just proved it right there that, man, we are so materialistic as a family, as a society, where we can't even, if we decide we're only going to buy one gift, that ruins Christmas, And I remember thinking, all right, what about, with your job, you don't have any overtime built in, right? Mm-hmm. But I remember your little side hustles that you did. Talk about some of the things, if somebody's listening out there and they're like, look, I'm on salary, I can't go and work overtime. What are some little things that Andrea did to generate a little bit extra income around the house?
Well, I sold things.
Yeah, and explain what you sold, though, 'cause that's a big deal to a girl.
On some of especially, with Facebook and things like that, they have these online garage sales. Mm-hmm. Is pretty much what they are. And you can join them in your neighborhood and so forth. And there was a time when I got really into it and I just went through my closet and I would find things to sell. I'd take things to consignment stores. We put a lot of the designer dresses because at one point in time when I thought I had money and I could buy, a $200 dress on a credit card and then not pay the credit card off for ever.
Mm-hmm. You were building your credit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Seeing how much I could do and the minimum payment I could pay every month. So I would sell those things on eBay. And these online garage sales, and I would stick them on the front porch and make $10 here, $20 here, $5 here. I would do ad matching. I was religious about ad matching for our groceries.
I'll put links in the show notes. We do have an ad match form. Basically, Walmart and I think Target does it now. Well, they will give you the lowest price of anybody's ad. So we put a little spreadsheet together because, yes, I love spreadsheets. And it's free. It's on the website. So I'll put a link in the show notes. So at the end of the episode, click on the show notes and you'll get that.
Yeah, I know sometimes, like since then, some of the ways they do it have changed a little bit, but the data spreadsheet was great. We went from apples to zucchini, A to Z, everything in between. And on Wednesdays or Tuesdays, between Tuesday and Wednesday, when the ads would come out all over, and they were like stores that were not even in our neighborhood. You know, they were in lower income areas and things like that where they typically would have much cheaper prices. So I would go through all those ads. I'd plot out everything I needed. And then I would go that Wednesday or Thursday grocery shopping and I could do it. I mean, most weeks I'd spend maybe $100 on groceries.
Yeah, we were crushing it. I mean, it was tough. We
never ate out.
Never
ate out.
Never went to Starbucks.
No. And I still, to this day, like we rarely eat out. I can count on my hand in the last 5 years how many times I've eaten out at lunch.
Okay, so I'm going to shock people right now because I tell people this all the time. Their eyes get big. We don't have any debt left now except for our house. We just refied into a 10-year mortgage and we're going to be aggressive about that. So we know the mortgage is going to be gone here in a few years. We don't have any consumer debt and we budget religiously every single month. What do we usually budget for like dining out, going out to eat entertainment a month?
$125.
No, that's every 2 weeks. $250.
No.
I pull out 125 every 2 weeks.
No, not every month. No.
Not every
He's
month.
wrong.
No. I'm the one that does a spreadsheet. I pull the cash out. I pull out half. I do 125 on the first and 125 on the 15th.
Okay, so I'll tell you this then. So average 200 to 250 depending on the month.
Yeah.
But that's not just eating out. That includes taking the kids to a movie. That includes taking the kids maybe to the zoo. That is all of our fun. That's not just eating out. So a family of 4 in a month.
But I feel like we still go out and have fun.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, we crush happy hour. That's like our thing.
That we know of every happy hour around town.
Yeah.
And you and I can go out and have happy hour for $25. But we love having happy hour at home. That's like kind of our thing. I think because we are gone so much, we tend to, save a lot of money because our fun Friday nights consist of sitting on the patio
and
with a glass of wine.
A glass of wine's a lot cheaper.
When you buy a $5, $10 bottle of wine, 4 glasses there versus $10 for 1 glass of wine at a restaurant.
It all adds up.
Hey guys, I just wanted to pause and take a second to say thank you from me to you for listening to and supporting the Money Peach podcast. Without listeners like you, this show definitely would not be possible, so thank you. The number one question that I receive is this: Peach, I just don't know where to start when it comes to my money. So many of us out there are living paycheck to paycheck. We have tons of debt. We're not making any headway. We can't save any money. We want to go on a freaking vacation where we pay cash for it. Oh, and let's talk about retirement savings and kids' college planning on top of that, right? Where do you start? Well, that's why we created the cash flow formula. The cash flow formula is the same system that Andrea and I used to pay off $52,000 in debt in only 7 months. And the best part is it's 100% free, meaning we are going to send you the free tools and a free lesson on how to set up your own cash flow formula. So to get started, go over to getcashflowformula.com. That's GET cashflowformula.com. Once again, head on over to getcashflowformula.com to get your free copy and your free lesson on how to get started the right way. All right, guys, now back to the show.
Another thing I think was really unique is you work at the news station. You're, I would say you don't admit it, but you're a local celebrity. Everywhere we go, people, can I get a picture with you? I know you, I watch you every day, blah, 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 blah. So this has been going on now for 12 years. So we're used to it. So you're definitely in the public eye. And I think it's unique. And I see it a lot. Like we'll be at the grocery store together and, people, we walk in the grocery store and people stop and, they're not looking at me, they're looking at you and they'll kind of watch you and they'll see you bargain shop,
oh yeah.
Tell them about the emails you get, people asking you where you shop for your clothes. I mean, you're on TV 5 days a week.
Every day there's
where do you shop?
Well, every day people are, ask, where'd you get the dress? Where'd you get that blouse, that skirt? And yeah, they're shocked because Target is my store, TJ Maxx, Marshall's, any sale rack. I shop at a lot of the really, really inexpensive kind of trendy stores, but I found ways of finding things there that don't look cheap. And most, I do not spend more than $20 on a dress ever.
And what did you used to spend?
$200.
Minimum. Absolutely. I remember
Shoes,
that.
I think the last pair of shoes I bought were $8. And they were a $40 pair of shoes, but I only bought them because they were $8.
And the reason why I bring this up is, I think some of you might be thinking, oh, they must wear ratty clothes if they're minimalist or something like that. You would get in trouble at your job if you were wearing clothes that weren't like flashy enough or Miss Fashionista. Your boss would come down on you and say, you can't look like crap.
And makeup, being on TV, I don't buy makeup at department stores. I buy makeup at Walmart and at Walgreens, and it's only when it's buy one get one free. The makeup I wear on TV every day, the cost of my powder and beauty balm, they call it, that whole total is $6. What I put on my face. $6.
And what did it used to be?
Oh, for just the powder alone? $30.
And I don't know anything about makeup, but what I'm saying is we're talking drastic cuts in cost because we're refusing to pay for the name, I guess, or for the
full price for something I know
retails for suckers.
I can get cheaper. And the thing is I started like that 5 years ago. Making those changes. And it's so habit now that I could never.
It's actually 6 years now.
6 years. Yeah, 6 years, 2017. Yeah. It's so habit now that I could never, ever think about going back to treat myself because maybe there's a little extra in the budget for a more expensive dress. Because to me, that extra now, say, as time progresses, we get a raise or this or that. That extra doesn't go to those things because I'm so used to living this way and buying those kind of things that it's silly to me to spend that extra money in that manner. Instead, that extra money goes to things that help us get closer to the goal of being completely debt-free and retired completely.
Okay, so we've really hit on cutting back, how we had to sacrifice, how we had to get out of debt. I mean, it wasn't easy. It was not easy at all. 100% worth it. But, saying no, getting rid of cable, which we still don't have.
We still don't have cable.
No.
Which I still don't miss it.
I don't either.
You working a heck of a lot in the beginning, like all the time.
Just as much as I could. I needed to do we hit it from two sides. We said, okay, we're going to attack it from we're going to cut back on expenses.
I was able to be like the good one at cutting back because I was spending a lot of money on the things, that cost a lot of money.
Sure.
Department store, all that stuff. But you had the ability to work more. So that was our balance. That's how we both attacked it. And we both kind of did our equal share.
How well are we perfect?
No.
Do we make a ton of mistakes?
Absolutely. Do we sometimes mess up during the month on our budget or accidentally spend a little too much in one category and not the other? Absolutely. You can't be perfect every month.
And so people always ask, how did you get your wife on board? Well, I'll tell you what not to do. Don't come home and say, hey, we're going to sell your car. You can't shop at Target. So we kind of hit on that. And then people say, how can you remain perfect? And I'm like, well, I appreciate you thinking I'm perfect.
But we're not.
We're not even close.
And we
just do a good job consistently.
Yes. We just consistent effort every month.
Yeah.
And some months we rock it to the core. And some months, we're okay. Some months we're like, ooh, we underestimated that or overestimated that or whatever it might be. But the consistent effort, and I think because we share the common end goal. If you're married and you don't share a common goal of where you want to be with your money in your life, because the money is that's going to help you get to that. But if you don't share that common goal, it's never going to happen.
And I will echo that saying there's been days where I'm slacking and you're going to come over and say, no, we're not buying that. That's crap. It's crap. We're not buying that. We haven't even saved for it. We could save for it and get it later. Or vice versa, where you're like, I need to go on vacation. Like these kids are driving me nuts and, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So, but I think another thing that's really important too is, we had a why. When we wanted to get out of debt, it wasn't, we were just going to get out of debt so we could just get out of debt. It was, we envisioned what life would look like after debt. And now we're living that. And so what it looks like is this. There's no more worry. I mean, we have this giant emergency fund. And when things happen, which they do, we just write a check. Mm-hmm. And there's no more stress. There's no fighting. There's no worrying. And we just go back to whatever we were doing, which is huge.
Money does not even doesn't even come up in our in any sort of argument
Negative,
or with any negative tone. It's just there. It's just, that's what it is. It's just part of life.
That was the biggest part. The next thing is, like, we're humans. We want to go on vacation. We want to buy stupid crap that we like. And now we have the ability, since we're not making debt payments, to save up. And so what do we have? We have planned in 2 months. Where are we going?
On a cruise with the kids.
On a cruise. And then we just bought plane tickets.
To go to the Caribbean.
To go to the Caribbean.
In the summer.
Cash, all cash. Mm-hmm. We've saved up for it. And, so it's that comfort feeling when some friends ask you, hey, do you want to, go with us for a week in St. Thomas? Well, yes, because we've had a vacation fund where we dump money into it every single month. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can go. It's not like, oh, can we make it happen?
I'll go work a whole bunch.
Yeah, I'll go work or hustle. It just, you kind of put your life on automatic, on this autopilot in the direction of good. And then I know you're not a numbers person. So we are old school in a way that we still like going and sitting down with our financial advisor once a year. And I drag you with me every time because you're like, I don't want to go. I don't care about the spreadsheet stuff and all that. But one of the things we both leave with every single time, we just had it like 2 months ago. We had our
right
appointment
before the holidays.
Was, wow, we are going to be A-okay. At the rate we're saving,
we're going to be good.
We're going to be really good. And that is awesome.
I think it gives you a renewed sense of the direction you're headed. I think when you are getting out of debt, there's a lot of motivation always because you constantly see that debt dwindle. Whereas, we just have the house left. There's not much of the house left. And so these little wins every week that all of you, we hope, are having, we don't have those because we don't have a credit card to knock out or a student loan to knock out. So sometimes your motivation kind of falls a little flat. So I know it's nice, to hear other people's constant winnings, and their successes. But for us, sometimes we have to be reminded by seeing it on paper or seeing where our life and the direction it's headed and it's on the up where it needs to be, then we're like, okay, what we're doing is working still. And we kind of have that renewed sense of motivation.
Absolutely. So the reason why, guys, we have Andrea on the podcast today is I want you to think about you. I want you to listen to me, listen to her, and kind of pick bits and pieces and relate to that and think, okay, things are tough right now, or things just aren't going in the direction I want. I'm fighting with my husband. I'm fighting with my wife. It doesn't seem like I can make enough money. These are all the same exact things that we went through as well. But instead of fighting with each other, there's a whole synergy thing where they say, 1 + 1 = 10. And I know that's why we went from our 14-month get out of debt plan to our 7-month get out of debt plan, is because it just, like you said, it became a game. It became like this team. And I never really thought marriage was bad before that. No. We never had any issues. We're still newlyweds. We were 3 years into marriage. But I remember thinking how much better marriage was when we were working the pieces together. And then we went into Bank of America, that very last debt in November. And we met with the teller and we wrote the check. And that was like, how many times in your life do you get with your husband or your wife, do you get to make a big win like that together? It was pretty special.
It was.
So every time I think about that, I get goosebumps. And I remember that the icing on the cake is when she asked us if we would like to open a line of credit.
And we laughed.
As soon as we were done, would you like to open a line of credit? Ma'am, you have no idea what you're asking.
Yeah. I appreciate you doing your job, but no, thanks. Yeah, it's totally doable. It's doable if you're set out to do it as a team. It works so much better when you're both on board.
Okay, so last thing I want to ask you is, if you could give somebody one piece of advice about this whole money thing, this whole personal finance, financial money thing, what would you tell somebody?
I would tell them to do something now, today, to get you into the mindset of changing your behavior with how you manage your money, because it is completely 100% behavioral. And it's going to be a little rough and a little uncomfortable in the beginning, but I 100% guarantee you it is totally worth it. It is one of the best feelings you'll ever have, knowing that you and your husband and your family set out to do something that most likely will change your family tree forever. And you can do it. You absolutely can do it.
Yeah, if a couple knuckleheads like us could figure it out with zero training.
Zero.
Right? There was no podcast we were listening to. We were making, for every one thing we did right, we did 6 things wrong. It ended up working out with us still.
And if you're feeling stuck right now and lost, then obviously what you're doing right now is probably not working. So what harm will it have if you tried something different? If you hate it in a month, if you hate it, after giving it a good try, then go back to what you were doing before.
Yeah.
No harm in that.
If you don't like paying off your debt, you can always go back into debt if you want.
Absolutely, you can. But really, for it to feel consistent and for it to feel normal, I always tell people you got to give it a good 3 months. And I think after a few months of just feeling your way and finding this new path and like really rocking it, you're going to notice a big difference in your life. Completely changes for the better.
And just like that, we wrap up another amazing episode of the Money Peach podcast. All the show notes, the links, anything that Andrea and I talked about can be found over at moneypeach.com/session120. That's moneypeach.com/session120. Thank you guys so much for listening. And if this is the episode that did it for you, if this was the show where you're thinking, this is us, this sounds like my husband and I, or my wife and I, or maybe we know somebody like this, it would be an honor for us if you guys wouldn't mind sharing this with them. Just in your podcast app, just click on the share button, send them the link to the show. You're going to be doing them a favor, and also you'll be doing us a favor. We want to say thank you from the bottom of our hearts. So have a great week. We'll see you guys next week, same time, same place, and God bless. Boom,